Reach up and run your finger along the bottom of your face right now. Feel that small bony point at the front of your jaw. It's so ordinary you've probably never thought about it. But you are the only animal on Earth that has one. Not the only ape, not the only primate, the only animal. Out of every creature that has ever lived, only you and your fellow humans carry this little jut of bone at the front of the face. And here is the strange part. After more than a century of study, science still cannot agree on why. Tonight, let's look closely at the most overlooked part of your body and ask a question that sounds simple and turns out to be one of the great small mysteries of being human. Why do you have a chin? First, you need to understand what a chin actually is, because it's stranger than it sounds. A chin is not just the bottom of your face, it is a specific thing, an outward projection of bone at the front of your lower jaw, sticking forward even past your front teeth. Anatomists call it the mental protuberance, and that forward jut is the key. Lots of animals have a lower jaw. None of them have it pushed forward into a point like yours. Look at a chimpanzee, your close cousin. Its lower jaw slopes backward, away from the teeth, receding into the neck. Inside, apes often have a reinforcing ledge of bone, but it faces inward, the opposite of a chin. Look at a gorilla, a monkey, a dog, a horse. Same story. The jaw runs back, not forward. The chin is simply missing. Now here is where it gets genuinely surprising. It isn't just other animals that lack a chin, it's other humans. The Neanderthals were our closest relatives. They were intelligent, they made tools, controlled fire, buried their dead, and survived in brutal Ice Age Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. They had brains as large as ours, sometimes larger, and they did not have chins. Their lower jaws were powerful, but flat at the front, with no forward point. Go further back. Homo erectus, who walked the earth for over 1 million years, no chin. Every ancient human species you can name, no chin. The bony point on your face appears in exactly one species in the entire history of life, yours, Homo sapiens. Think about that. Of all the things that make you human, the upright walk, the big brain, the speech, almost every one of them developed gradually, shared in some form with relatives along the way. But the chin is different. The chin is ours alone. It may be the single most distinctive bone in your entire body. So a feature, that special, that unique, must do something important, right? That is exactly what scientists assumed. And for over 100 years, they have been proposing reasons, testing them, and watching them fall apart one by one. Let's walk through the suspects. The first and most intuitive idea is that the chin is a buttress, a support beam. The thought goes like this: chewing puts enormous stress on the jaw, and maybe that little wedge of bone at the front evolved to reinforce the jaw against the forces of biting and grinding food. It sounds reasonable, so researchers tested it directly. An anthropologist named David Daegling, who studies the mechanics of the jaw, examined how stress actually travels through the mandible when you chew. And the chin failed the test. The forces of chewing don't concentrate where the chin is. The bone is in the wrong place, facing the wrong way, to act as a useful brace. If you were an engineer designing a jaw to survive chewing, you would not put the reinforcement there. The buttress idea, the most obvious one, simply doesn't hold up. The second idea moved from chewing to talking. Humans are the great talkers of the animal world, and speech means a constantly moving tongue pulling and pushing on the floor of the mouth. So maybe the chin braces the jaw against the forces of speech. But when researchers looked at the actual forces involved, the same problem appeared. The tongue's pulls during talking are gentle, far too weak to demand a whole new bony structure to resist them. The speech explanation, like the chewing one, runs out of force, literally. The third idea is more interesting and harder to rule out. It's sexual selection. Notice that chins are not all the same. On average, men tend to have larger, squarer, more prominent chins, while women's are often smaller and rounder. Whenever a trait differs between the sexes like that, evolutionary biologists get suspicious because it can be a sign of a display feature, something that evolved not to do a job, but to be looked at. Think of a peacock's tail or a deer's antlers. Charles Darwin himself suggested that some human features were shaped by sexual selection, by generations of choosing mates partly on how they looked. So perhaps a strong chin became a signal of maturity, of health, of dominance, and was favored simply because it was found attractive. It's a real possibility. But it's also extremely hard to prove for a feature that fossilized long before anyone could ask our ancestors what they found beautiful. The idea remains open, but unproven. And then there is the fourth idea, the one a growing number of researchers now take most seriously, and it's a strange one. The chin might not be for anything at all. This is the byproduct hypothesis, championed by anthropologists like James Pampush, who has spent years studying the chin specifically. The argument is that the chin is not an adaptation that evolution selected for. It's an accident, a leftover, a side effect of something else entirely. Here is the logic. Over our evolution, the human face did something dramatic. It shrank and retracted, pulling back and tucking in underneath our growing brain case. Our faces became smaller, flatter, less jutting than those of our ancestors. And as the upper face and the tooth-bearing part of the jaw pulled inward and reduced, the lower rim of the jawbone didn't retreat as much. The part above shrank back, the base stayed forward. And what's left standing, where the shrinking face passed it by, is a small forward point of bone, the chin. Researchers at the University of Iowa, including Robert Franciscus and Nathan Holton, studied how the human face grows and reduces, and their work supports this view, that the chin emerges from the broader story of our face getting smaller, not from any special job the chin performs. In this picture, you don't have a chin because it helps you. You have a chin because your face shrank around it and left it behind. There's a final thread woven through all of this, and it may be the most human of all. Some scientists, including researchers like Robert Cieri, have found that over roughly the last 80,000 years, human faces became softer, less heavy, less rugged. With smaller brow ridges and gentler features, they've linked this to a kind of self-domestication, as humans became more cooperative, more social, and less aggressive, possibly tied to shifting hormone levels. Our faces, in a sense, grew friendlier. And the delicate, tucked-in face that produces a chin may be part of that same gentle transformation, the face of a creature that survives by getting along with others. So where does that leave us? Honestly, unsettled. And that's the truth worth sitting with. The chin is the one bone that unmistakably says human. No other animal has it, no other human species had it. And yet, we cannot say for certain why it's there. The mechanical explanations, chewing, speech, mostly failed. Sexual selection is possible, but unprovable. The leading view now leans toward the chin being a byproduct, an accident of a shrinking face, perhaps wrapped up in our becoming a gentler, more social species. But there is still no final answer. After all this time, your chin remains an open question. And maybe that's the most wonderful part. You walk around every day wearing one of the deepest little puzzles in human biology, right there on the front of your face. It's not on some distant fossil or hidden in your genes. It's the thing you rest your hand on when you're thinking. It's the first thing that leads when you lift your face to the sky. A small, stubborn point of bone that no other creature on Earth has ever grown, and that even the brightest scientists still argue about. So reach up and run your finger along the bottom of your face one more time. Feel that small, bony point. It is the most uniquely human part of your skeleton, and quietly, one of the most mysterious. You are the only animal that has ever had a chin. We're still not entirely sure why, and somehow that makes it even more remarkable that it's yours.